Jones made his UFC debut against Andre Guzmao at UFC 87 on August 9, 2008. Jones had accepted the deal on 2 weeks' notice as a late replacement for Tomasz Drwal. Jones won by unanimous decision, using takedowns and unorthodox striking, such as spinning elbows and a spinning back kick. In his second UFC match, Jones took on veteran Stephan Bonnar at UFC 94 on January 31, 2009. Jones secured multiple takedowns on Bonnar, even suplexing him to the mat, and connecting with a back elbow that hurt Bonnar badly. He appeared fatigued in the third round but won the fight by unanimous decision. Jones's third fight was against Jake O'Brien at UFC 100 on July 11, 2009. Jones controlled the majority of the match and eventually secured a modified guillotine choke, causing O'Brien to tap out. In September 2009, Jones was rewarded for his victories by signing a new, 4-fight contract with the UFC. On December 5, 2009, Jones fought fellow light heavyweight prospect Matt Hamill at the Ultimate Fighter Heavyweights finale. Jones used his wrestling to dominate Hamill, dislocating Hamill's shoulder with a takedown, and battering him with strikes. However, Jones would be disqualified for the use of illegal 12-6 elbows. The unified rules of mixed martial arts prohibited downward elbow strikes, and Jones was initially only penalized a point from the round. However, Hamill was unable to continue due to his dislocated shoulder. Consequently, the replay simulation was reviewed, and showed that Jones's elbows further damaged Hamill's already bloody and lacerated nose. This marked the first time that Nevada has used its recently enacted instant replay rule, in which the referee's decision was supported by the commission, which utilized a slow-motion replay to review the elbows. UFC President Dana White was aggrieved that referee Steve Mazzagatti ruled the bout as a loss for Jones, saying that it should have been a no contest. In 2019, White said he was still attempting to have the result overturned to a no contest by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Jones fought Brandon Vera on March 21, 2010, at UFC Live, Vera vs. Jones. He won the fight by TKO after an elbow to Vera's face followed up with various punches in the first round. The elbow delivered to stop the fight also broke Vera's face in 3 places. Jones also won the Knockout of the Night award. Jones defeated former IFL light heavyweight champion Vladimir Matyushenko by TKO with elbows in 152 of the first round on August 1, 2010, at UFC Live, Jones vs. Matyushenko. Dana White promised Jones a huge step up in the competition if he managed to defeat Matyushenko. After defeating Matyushenko, Jones stated that he wanted a top 3 opponent for his next fight. Jones mentioned in an interview with Inside MMA that he would be facing the winner of Antonio Rogerio Nogueira vs. Ryan Bader. Reports that Jones had previously been offered a match with Nogueira, but turned it down, turned out to be false. In the Inside MMA interview, Jones also stated that he had been informed by Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta that if he finished his next 2 fights, he would likely receive a title shot. White soon confirmed that Jones would face the undefeated Ultimate Fighter winner Ryan Bader, on February 5, 2011, at UFC 126. Jones handed Bader his first professional loss by defeating him via submission due to a guillotine choke in the second round after dominating Bader in the first round. Jones was awarded the Submission of the Night bonus. Immediately after the bout with Bader, it was revealed that title contender and Jones's training partner Rashad Evans had sustained a knee injury in training, and would not be able to compete in his scheduled match with UFC light heavyweight champion Mauricio "Shogun" Rua. Jones was told by Joe Rogan in the post-fight interview that he would replace Evans in the fight for the UFC light heavyweight championship. On March 19, 2011, at UFC 128, Jones defeated Rua by TKO at 2:37 of round 3, becoming the youngest ever UFC champion. After an early flying knee that badly hurt the champion, Shogun was dominated throughout the 3 rounds. A body shot and knee to the head dropped the champion to his knees, causing the referee to step in and halt the match. Jones's first title defense was expected to be on August 6, 2011, at UFC 133 against Rashad Evans, but Jones was sidelined with a hand injury. It was initially announced that the hand injury would require surgery, but Jones opted for rest and rehabilitation without surgery after further consultations with doctors. Jones's injury was originally thought to keep him out of action until late 2011, but he instead made his first title defense against Quinton Jackson on September 24, 2011, at UFC 135. Jones defeated Jackson via rear naked choke submission at 114 in the 4th round. In the process, he became the first UFC fighter to submit Jackson. In 2012, Jones said that this was his favorite fight up to that point. Jones vs. Evans was in the works for a second time, and a bout was targeted for December 10, 2011, at UFC 140. However, a lingering thumb injury cost another title opportunity for Evans, and Jones instead faced Lyoto Machida at the same event. Despite getting rocked in the first round by Machida, Jones successfully defended the light heavyweight title at UFC 140, stopping Machida at 4:26 of the second round via guillotine choke technical submission, which caused Machida to collapse unconscious along the cage. This was the first submission loss in Machida's career. Jones finally faced his arch-rival and former teammate Rashad Evans on April 21, 2012, at UFC 145, and won by unanimous decision. During the UFC 145 post-fight press conference, Dana White confirmed that Jones's next opponent would be Dan Henderson. The Jones-Henderson fight was expected to take place at UFC 151, but Henderson pulled out of the bout due to injuries. Jones then refused a late replacement fight with Chael Sonnen after his coach Greg Jackson told him with 3 training days left, it would be pretty difficult to prepare. UFC 151 was then subsequently cancelled. It was later reported that Henderson was injured 3 weeks prior to the announcement, but kept the injury under wraps as he was still hoping to compete. However, he had to withdraw following a final sparring session to evaluate his condition. A rematch with Lyoto Machida was then announced for September 22, 2012, at UFC 152. Lyoto Machida, who was not contacted prior to the announcement, rejected the fight due to the lack of time to train before the bout. Jones, instead, defended the championship against Vitor Belfort on September 22, 2012, at UFC 152. Jones opened as a massive favorite coming into the bout. Jones was chosen to coach opposite Chael Sonnen on Season 17 of The Ultimate Fighter, with a bout between the coaches taking place on April 27, 2013, at UFC 159. Jones displayed a lack of interest in the bout and actively downplayed the contest, making it clear that he did not believe Sonnen was a fit contender. In an interview, Sonnen did his best to garner interest in the bout, but Jones gave him the silent treatment and refused to make eye contact. Jones made quick work of his challenger, finishing Sonnen via TKO in the first round. However, he broke the big toe on his left foot during the fight. Jones faced Alexander Gustafsson on September 21, 2013, at UFC 165. Jones was badly cut above the eye during the first round, but he won the back-and-forth fight by unanimous decision. After the match, Jones said Gustafsson gave him the toughest fight of his career, and both were sent to the hospital for their injuries. Both men suffered lacerations and facial swelling, but were released from the hospital with no broken bones or serious injuries. Jones was expected to take on Glover Teixeira on February 1, 2014, at UFC 169. However, on October 7, UFC President Dana White stated that the announcement for this fight on that card was premature and that Jones and Teixeira would face each other on a different card. On November 13, 2013, it was announced that Jones would fight Teixeira at UFC 170, scheduled for February 22, 2014. However, the next day it was announced that the match had been removed from the card. On December 4, 2013, it was announced that Jones and Teixeira would face each other at UFC 171 on March 15, 2014, in Dallas, Texas. However, the fight was moved again. Jones and Teixeira finally fought on April 26, 2014, at UFC 172. Jones won the bout via unanimous decision. On April 27, 2014, UFC President Dana White confirmed that Jones would next have a rematch against Gustafsson, and stated the possibility of the match taking place in a stadium in Sweden on pay-per-view. On May 24, 2014, it was indicated that the rematch would take place in Las Vegas on August 30, 2014, at UFC 177. The statement, and the time and venue, was not official however, because Gustafsson was the only one who still had agreed to accept the match. On June 2, the fight was still on hold, and White explained the situation as, Jones doesn't want to fight Gustafsson, and instead expressed his preference for fighting Daniel Cormier. Jones was expected to defend his title against Anthony Johnson on May 23, 2015, at UFC 187. However, on April 28, Jones was stripped of the belt and suspended from the UFC indefinitely in connection with a hit-and-run incident where he crashed into a pregnant woman then fled the scene on foot. Cormier, who lost against Jones at UFC 182 in January 2015, replaced him and went on to defeat Anthony Johnson to take the vacant UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. On October 23, 2015, the UFC announced that Jones had been reinstated to the active roster, nearly 6 months after his suspension was announced. A rematch with Cormier was expected to take place on April 23, 2016, at UFC 197. However, Cormier pulled out of the fight on April 1, citing a foot injury, and was replaced by Ovince St. Preux. Jones defeated St. Preux by unanimous decision. The rematch with Cormier was rescheduled and expected to take place on July 9, 2016, at UFC 200. However, on July 6, 2016, Jones was removed from the bout by USADA on June 16 after a potential doping violation. On November 7, 2016, it was announced that Jones had been suspended for 1 year by USADA, retroactive to July 7. 2 days later, it was announced that Jones had been stripped of his interim title, making him the first fighter in UFC history to be stripped of a title twice. On December 15, Jones was also suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for 1 year. Third suspension and return. The rematch with Daniel Cormier took place on July 29, 2017, at UFC 214 at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. Jones won the fight and recaptured the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship via knockout in the 3rd round. After the fight, Jones was awarded a Performance of the Night bonus. After the fight, Jones praised Cormier as a model champion, while recognizing his own personal failings. He then challenged Brock Lesnar to a fight. On October 10, 2018, it was announced that Jones would return at UFC 232 on December 29, 2018. In a rematch with Alexander Gustafsson for the vacant UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Jones defeated Gustafsson by technical knockout in the 3rd round to win the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. In the first defense of his second championship reign, Jones faced Anthony Smith on March 2, 2019, in the main event at UFC 235. Jones dominated the fight, but was deducted 2 points in the 4th round after landing an illegal knee to Smith's head. He won the fight by unanimous decision. Jones faced Thiago Santos on July 6, 2019, in the main event at UFC 239. He won the back-and-forth match via split decision, defending his title for the second time. Jones faced Dominic Reyes on February 8, 2020 in the main event of UFC 247. Jones won the fight via controversial unanimous decision. 14 of 21 media outlets scored the contest for Reyes, while only 7 scored it for Jones. With this win, Jones set the new record for most wins in UFC title fight history with 14 wins.